You're listening to the Microsoft Innovation Podcast, where we explore the intersection of people, business, and technology. This year, we're adding a new show to our lineup, The AI Advantage, to help you learn the skills you need to thrive in the AI era.
Welcome to the Copilot Show, where I interview Microsoft staff innovating with AI. I hope you will find this podcast educational and inspire you to do more with this great technology. Now, let's get on with the show. I'm excited to welcome Scott Hunter, Microsoft VP of Product for Azure Developer, to the show. Scott lights up the stage at events like Microsoft Ignite, NDC recently, sharing insights on everything from cutting-edge AI agents to cloud scalability and boosting developer productivity. When he's not shaping the future of tech, you'll find him unwinding on hiking trails across Washington State and around the globe. You can find links to his bio and socials in the show notes for this episode. Welcome to the show, Scott.
Thanks for having me, Mark. I'm super excited to be here.
Good to be on, and I've got so many questions because I really want to drill into the subject of AI agents with you and where the marketing hype lines up with the reality. But before we do, food, family, and fun. As I mentioned, I know you're into hiking. What else do you get up to when you're not working?
I'm a Lego person, so I just built the McLaren P1 Lego car. I'm a big Formula One racer, person all up, so I just enjoyed watching the Miami GP this last weekend. But also, I have a 2-year-old dog and love taking the doggo out to walk out. And the weather's great here right now. And so enjoying the good weather with the dog and stuff like that. And I've got 2 kids in school in Montana.
Love it.
And so it's always fun to go see the kids up there. One of my kids is going to graduate in the next week or so.
Awesome. You're the first person I've come across where I couldn't find a LinkedIn profile for.
Yeah. The story behind that is I used to have one, but when you have one of those, all you do is get these job offers from all these companies.
Gotcha.
And, I don't really plan to work anywhere else. I'm going to retire from Microsoft. And so, I can send you a copy of the bio if you want it, but I just don't need it.
I love it. I love it, though. I love that you're offline in that respect. It's so cool.
I mean, all my friends have them, and I go see the networks and stuff like that. And I'm like, I'm also not on Facebook either.
Yeah, well, who'd want to be these days, right? At the start of this year, I disconnected from social media in its entirety. And that's from somebody that last year did 100 days straight of creating TikTok videos on AI. So I've been heavily on, but I'm either all on or all off, and I'm all off at this year.
I'm probably 95% off.
Yeah.
I look to see what my team's talking about, and I, repost those things, and I +1 those things. But there's too much politics and too much hate.
Yeah. And I haven't got time for it.
And by the way, it's amazing once you take that back over.
Yeah.
And you're not just sitting in a car swiping all the time. It's amazing how much you said. There's just so much more you can do. I'm not going to complain about it. I mean, if that's your vibe, then that's your vibe. It's just, I kind of jumped off a couple years ago, actually. I've probably been mainly off for about 1.5 years.
Yeah. Interesting. I've always, had it because I've been a content creator and talked about everything Microsoft for 20 odd years. But this year, I made a commitment to Microsoft Press to write a book on Copilot. And I was like, I'm going to do a big body of something rather than a lot of little bits of something, like blog posts and things like that. So it just was a refocusing for me on what I had to prioritize. So hence the change.
Yes. So first, I want to talk about the software engineering agent. And so, I assume that you're fully in playing with agent mode inside of Visual Studio Code. And so for folks on that are listening that don't know what agent mode is, if you kind of think about the transition we've made through AI these last couple of years, at first, we were using AI to do code completions, and or you might be using the AI to maybe ask a question, how would I write this in .NET or something like that? But, agent mode, which shipped, I want to say it went public just a few weeks ago in mid-April, I think, when it was in the insider builds, which are still public, but it went mainstream, I would say, about mid-April. And what agent mode is where literally I've got a Blazor application up in my VS Code, and I say, change the buttons in the web application to be orange and round. And unlike the code completion stuff, agent mode can go look at all the files in the app. In this case, what it would do is it would go find, hey, I noticed that you're using Bootstrap for your styles. I can put a new style in your bootstrap.css, and I will change the style for your button. And so no longer am I doing code completions. I'm actually having it do actual work for me. And so that's agent mode. And one of the things that we shipped at Build is agent mode is now available inside of Visual Studio as well. So it's been a VS Code only feature for a while. VS Code lets us, iterate faster than Visual Studio does. And so we kind of iterate a little bit in VS Code and then move it to the bigger IDE. Something else I can say is kind of cool is another Build thing. Agent mode is available in Visual Studio Code. It's also in Xcode, JetBrains, and Eclipse. And so basically, no matter what you're using for whatever language, agent mode should now be available for all those. But agent mode is kind of when I'm sitting at my machine and I'm asking the AI to help do stuff. And so I think as a developer, our skills are going to really change over the next 5 years, where a lot of what I'm going to do is be writing great prompts to go get the AI to do some of the work for me versus writing all the code that I'm writing. And, I still say you have to be a developer. You still have to know if the code's right. So it doesn't remove that. But a lot of the things that we would call tedious in the past, you can really rely on the AI. So where the software engineering agent comes to play is we take it to the next level. So now this is a GitHub feature. And what I can do is let's say I've got a bug, it's a bug I haven't fixed because it's not a high priority for me. I can go and open the issue up and I can assign the issue to Copilot now. And then what's going to happen in the background is Copilot, basically agent mode, is now running in the cloud.
Yeah.
And it's going to go and work on building a PR for me. It's going to open the PR. It's going to start writing in, here's what I'm going to do. And if I want, I can watch it in real time. If I open the PR up, I can sit there and watch the PR kind of change over time. And it will come back with, hey, I've got the PR ready for review. I can go look at it. I can look at the code changes. If I don't like something in the code change, I can highlight that and say, hey, I'd really like to show an error message here. And it'll go back and work again and come out and come back and let me basically, when it's all done, I can approve it and move on. And so it really is taken that agent mode, it's kind of scaled it. So now, devs on my team can basically go look at issues. They can decide which issues they want to assign to people on the team and which issues they want to assign to Copilot to work in the background and do for us. And I think in many cases, as I said, it's not going to be magic. It's not going to do everything perfect. But I bet you all of our code bases have simple bugs and stuff like that would be just easier just to assign to Copilot versus doing on my local machine.
You mentioned a whole range of things here I want to pick up on. One is that we're still going to need developers. And why I want to just drill into that is that as we abstract away more of the stuff you would learn to become a good developer, how does the juniors ever get to becoming intermediate seniors? And I just had a discussion this morning with somebody talking about help desks, and that if within the next 12 to 24 months, level 1 of all help desk support gets eliminated or agents take over that level, and maybe even level 2 support, how will we ever get level 3 support engineers with the experience? Because most of us in our career started at those low levels and worked up.
Yes.
And that's all been abstracted away from us. So how do we get, because, I had a discussion with my neighbor who's a lawyer, and she was like, I used AI and I felt like I was cheating. I was like, only you could understand whether what it brought back was legally correct or not. If I did it, I wouldn't know whether I could validate what was being said. Just like you're saying, from a pro coder, you're going to know what is being written is correct or not, or it's missing the error message. I want that added in. How do we address that potential gap we're going to see over the next couple of years?
I'll bring another worry in that I'll add to your worries. By the way, that's a totally valid worry. And we ask ourselves this exact question at Microsoft is how do we train the next generation of senior developers when the junior roles are going to change because of this tech so significantly? The first problem we have is I was sitting at a brewery just a few weeks ago, and next to me was a retired person that worked in big tech. Mm-hmm. And they are now high school computer science teacher. And we're chatting about Copilot and Cursor and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he was telling me that, his kids are not allowed to use AI by school policy. They're not allowed to use AI in the computer science class. And I'm telling him, well, first off, if you want to interview at Microsoft for a coding job or a product manager job, part of what we're going to ask, you're going to prove to us, you can show how you're using AI tools to be better at your job. And so I said, you need to go work on this school and make sure we don't have these stupid restrictions that hold back the kids. It's like, I got more hair than you still, but I'm older. And I remember when we weren't allowed to use calculators when I was taking some math courses. And of course, that makes no sense. the real solution when you're taking a math course is how to solve the problem, not doing the dang arithmetic. That's a machine can do the arithmetic. And I think we have the same problem, which we have to, I hope, fundamentally change the way that we teach kids in high schools and in colleges. AI needs to be part of how you actually do this job. So I was talking to David Fowler. He's the lead architect on .NET at Microsoft. We were just talking about this today, actually. And we were saying that we do think that the tech is going to help kids come up to speed faster than we would have, as, because now the AI you can use the AI to explain how this works, or why was it written this way, so on, so on. So we do think the AI is going to help with that. But I think all companies, a part of our jobs is going to be, how do we train that next generation of senior developers? Because if not, what's going to happen is 15 years from now, we're going to run out of those people. They're going to age out of the system.
Yep.
And nobody's going to know how to make it work. Your point earlier, same kind of thing in any job where we, if there's not people to train the next help desk, senior people. And so we all have to be aware of that. I will tell you at Microsoft, we don't have the solution for this yet, because the problem just started presenting itself to us, kind of the last few months. But I will tell you that we're talking about it, and we're talking all up, even about all hiring, about, number one, if I'm going to hire somebody, I'm also afraid that, there's actually tools out there where, as you're being asked interview questions, the AI on another computer could be actually showing you how to respond to that. And so I think we're going to have to make sure that people are in rooms. We know they're not doing that. But at the same time, I want them to be able to use an AI, like as a product manager, ChatGPT Deep Research. Oh my gosh, what a great feature.
Amazing, right? Especially the O3 model. Wow.
My team would spend 2 or 3 weeks going and looking at a product we're competing against and figuring out all that, what the deltas are between the products.
Yep.
And I can go use that tool, and in 15 or 20 minutes, I can probably build a more comprehensive report than I would have done by hand before. And even cooler is, I can then tell the AI I want to run this every 30 days.
Yeah.
And then have it do a delta and see if, things are trending in one way or the other. And so these tools are just great tools.
We've heard this term vibe coding come out quite a bit in recent times. And obviously you see if you look on X, because I was actually in a Microsoft presentation where it showed somebody getting into it and then all of a sudden burnt something like $100,000 worth of credits and got a bill for it because they didn't know what they were doing and how to put restrictions, etc. in place. And they went from, hey, I'm making all this money, vibe coding something. I put it out to the public, got all these followers, and then I'm bankrupt because I didn't know what I was doing. But where do you see that come into the mix in the way? So I'll give you an example. The other day, I took the concept and I built about a 30-page website through one prompt. And the detail of this website was amazing. It built it all in Next.js. It deployed it, published on a publicly facing URL for me to test. And it would have taken maybe 10 minutes for it to do that. And the quality was phenomenal.
Pretty good, yeah.
And, GitHub for the repository on the back end, VS Code, as in for any then tweaks when you're talking about coloring and stuff, bang, I could do it there. So it's amazing where the speed that this tech is going. And I could have said, create me a mobile app the same kind of way, right? And at least for I do a bit of work with Microsoft Field around go-to-market. And I'm like, I think the days of hardcore demos are over. You need to prototype quickly, show the art of the possible to get to the next step in the sale with the customer, rather than spend a week building a heavy demo that you're going to demo in 5 minutes and it's gone. Where's Vibe come into the mix for you, and what do you think the implications are? And then I want to get back into AI agents in a bit more detail.
Yeah, so Vibe is interesting. I do think it's overhyped when you watch this stuff, because it's like, if I went and Vibe coded something, and I've seen the same videos you've seen, where people that literally don't, never written an iOS app in their entire life, they don't know Swift, and, they put together a viable application very quickly. I don't know if I would trust running that application, because without looking at the code, just to go make sure that there's not, because, once again, the AI learns from other code. So if there was, I'll just say, if there was a backdoor and something it learned from, it could just copy the backdoor right into your application.
Yes.
And so you still need real devs, but I do think for prototyping and for doing quick demos, oh my gosh, I was talking to another colleague earlier today, and I was saying, we could do a startup with a lot less people today. And we could have a first prototype that I could go and try to raise cash with pretty quickly.
Yep.
And so I think is, once again, in that context, it's totally fine. Like we've done some vibe coding for internal apps. Like one of the things that a person on my team built was, let's go, we just did a conference recently and we wanted to go look at the sentiment for that thing. And so it took all the socials and went and looked for the right hashtags.
Yep.
And then gave us a sentiment report. And 2 people on my team wrote that in just an hour or 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
There were some bugs they had to go fix by hand and stuff like that. But they, I would have gone and bought a tool in the past.
Exactly.
In this case, we were able to go, use these tools to quickly generate stuff. But I think you just have to keep it in context. If you're, imagine you're a major bank, you didn't write any of that code.
No.
Somebody's got to go review that code. If you're running, building a service in Azure, I want a human to know that they've looked at that code and it's the right code. But I think for demos, oh my gosh, so good.
Yeah. Satya was on a call with Zuckerberg a couple of weeks ago and it was published and he said something like 20 to 30% of all Microsoft's code is now written by AI. And I see people jump to conclusions off this. And then I read another article about those people getting into Y Combinator as a startup and how so much of the code is written by AI. But what the interviewer uncovered, which is, I think really applies to what you were just saying there as well, is that these people that come up with these ideas have been percolating them oftentimes for years. They have thought about the nuances of it. It's not that they just knew how to write a killer prompt. They have all this experience behind them. They have market validation. They have understanding of infrastructure and architecture and all this. And then they go do it. This is not just somebody coming up with an idea and going, oh, look how quickly I can produce something in here. And so even when you say you could go into a startup, it has a lot to do with your years of experience.
Lots of years doing this thing. That's when I was talking to my colleague about this, we were actually saying, because we know how the tech works, it's easy to go ask the AI to make the tech do what we want it to do. But if you didn't know, like I'm a .NET developer primarily at heart, and I know ASP.NET backwards and forwards. And so I know what to ask for the right way because I know how the technology actually works. And we were saying that, some of the parts of .NET are fairly new, which means there's not enough code out there for the AI to be super smart on that stuff. But because I know how the code works, I can still make the AI very useful for me because I know how the tech works. I can actually tell it how the tech works. And, once again, the better the prompt, the better the result.
Yeah.
And you can only build a good prompt if you actually know the tech, which comes back to this. We're almost circled back full 360. You need to have developers that actually understand the tech to really get the most out of the AI. And I do believe those numbers are real numbers, by the way, that you're going to find that 30% of the code is generated by AI. It's also reviewed by senior developers that know how the tech works.
Exactly.
And so it's not like we just magically just wrote stuff and didn't look at it. Senior people that have been looking at code for 30 years looked at that and said, that looks right to me.
Yeah, exactly. It has that experience behind it. If we look at agents in general, and, when we did our pre-call, I discussed the marketing hype potentially being way ahead of the reality hype. And, we've seen MCP come out recently. We're seeing agent-to-agent protocol, things like this, where I'm all of a sudden starting to see a reality starting to form of a possible agent future and me having an interface that has access to a lot of tools. And I know, as you say, let's say I've got the experience of those tools and now I can start iterating on some ideas. When you're thinking about it and where the landscape is mid-2025 now, just about, where are we? What's the opportunity? Where do you see us going? And, just by the end of this year rather than anything beyond.
We're still super early, but I think at Build, that's the first time, I'll be honest. Something else my team has been building is working on tools to help you move from a version of .NET to the next version of .NET, or move from a version of Java to the next version of Java.
Yeah.
And historically, these would have been like static analysis tools that with some rules in them and stuff like that. If you told me a year ago we would be able to replace that static stuff with agent or with AI, I would have said no. But the reality is, in the last couple of months, the model suddenly got a lot better, and Sonnet ships, and it's the best coding model. And then 2 weeks ago, I hear Gemini 2.5 is the best coding model. And then OpenAI releases a new GPT model, and now I hear it's the best coding model. And so the coding models have gotten better at a super rate of speed. And so I do think we're going to continue to see that. I primarily focus myself in 3 zones. The software engineering agent, which we kind of discussed before, which is I can assign the AI to do work. Another one's going to be the site reliability engineer agent. And this is something where these are people in our organization today whose job is to basically be on the pager. And so imagine your website has a wobble. And what happens is some of the tools detect that there's a wobble on the website and my pager goes off and I have to jump on the dashboard and see if there's really a wobble there. And that's the next thing that we're doing is the site reliability engineer agent, which will do that kind of work for me. So the agent would wake up, it would go look at the website and, I would have set rules up and the rule could say, hey, if the website just wobbled for 20 seconds and came back, that's okay. And so once again, that pager never happens because the agent goes and says, oh, it came back in this time frame. It looks healthy again, so I'll just close the issue. It could be that one of my rules is if the wobble is still wobbling, then before we do anything, before we wake anybody else up, we just reboot.
Yeah.
And so the agent reboots, then watches the site again and lets that happen. We've already seen internally reducing pagers by 30%.
Wow.
And so it's like, when you think about that, it's what I just described is not rocket science. It's very simple, but it's amazing how those simple things can change things. We plan to do a bunch more stuff with the agents. The agents are going to be able to look at your website and go, hey, your memory usage is high. Is that normal? And if it's normal, would you like me to move you to a higher tier where you have more memory in the cloud? Or I noticed, same thing. I see your CPU is high. Would you like me to move you, or CPU is low? Maybe I want to move you down to a cheaper tier.
Yeah.
Because it can do these kinds of analysis in real time in the background all the time. In some cases, I might say, no, the CPU usage should not be this high. And then the SRE agent can go out there and take a dump from the running application and then analyze it with some AI and come back and give me, hey, I don't know what's going on, or I found this is the code that's causing this challenge, and do that for me. And so I'm super excited about the SRE agent. It's going to support multiple Azure services, and it's going to do way more than what I just described as well. So we've also, it might go look and say, hey, you asked me to look at these 5 sites. Why is it not using TLS 1.3 while all your other sites are? It might notice config changes where we messed up as humans and made a config change, because the LLM is going to look and kind of compare all the things it's looking at and do that. And so I'm super excited about that as well. And then my final one, which is these tools for migrating your Java and .NET apps to the newest version. That's another feature of the SRE agent as well. Hey, it's like, I don't even want to know how many customers are running old versions of Java or old versions of .NET, because they shipped the app and they forgot about it. And this thing's going to go look at and go, hey, I see you're on the January version of Java, not the April version of Java.
Yeah.
Would you like me to fix that? And I could say, no, please go assign that issue to the software engineering agent. He would then go and run the tool that I just described. And then I would have a PR to basically approve doing that. And so to me, this is just tedious work that we all don't want to do. And that's areas where this stuff can really make a big difference. And you're going to see all of that this year on the developer side. You're going to see the site reliability, these migration tools that we have, and the software engineering agent. That's the stuff and I think they're just going to continually get better as these models get better. And we're not going to stick to any particular model. We're going to let customers choose the model of choice as they pop out. But what I have not dived deep in personally is writing my own agents and having them, do stuff. There's all this idea of you're going to have a fleet of these agents, and, part of our job is going to be telling our agents to go do all these things for us during the day. I have not focused on that. My job has primarily been SRE and the migration upgrade stuff. But I do think we're going to see huge gains in these other places too. I mean, there's so many tedious things that we do. And imagine if I could give you 45 minutes of your day back every day to go write good code and design stuff.
I think it was at NDC conference. You just spoke on this recently, right? And was it Oslo?
No, actually, it was NDC London. So
okay. If you want to jump in, if you're listening and you want to see some details about this code migration, go check it out, because you do some demos and stuff in that session.
Yeah, Scott Hanselman and on my team, we actually did a talk where we just showed how to use AI in your daily life. That was primarily what our focus was. I think something else is, if you're in our line of duty, you should be exploring these tools.
Yeah.
I explore these tools every day And Scott and I were just kind of showing all the different weird stuff and cool stuff that we found. We had, Scott had a model running on an iPhone.
Wow.
And so we were running local models on iPhones as part of the talk, but just a whole bunch of useful information about how to use AI to do your daily job. And it was primarily trying not to over focus on coding and focusing on all the other ways. Like I was doing one of the deep research things to show how I, compare one of my products to a competitor's product.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So
my favorite Scott quote, Hanselman's quote at the moment is, it was just an MVP summit I asked in a panel he was on, is AI going to take our jobs? Because the media says it all the time. And he said, no, absolutely not. But a capitalist will. And I'm like, that really sums it up perfectly.
I do think, when the cloud revolution happened about 10 or 15 years ago, probably it's about 15 years old is what I'm going to guess. People said the same thing. Imagine you're working in IT and you're racking equipment and hooking up network cables and configuring all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't do that anymore. The cloud replaced, that with that's all done for you in the cloud. But those people just had to reskill and learn how to go measure and monitor this stuff in the cloud. The stuff we talked about in this conversation was not rocket science stuff. It's not going to go build the app from scratch for me.
Yeah.
But it's going to go, if I'm going to go refactor something, I'm going to ask the AI to refactor it. I'm not going to go do that manual work. If I want to go change an API across my entire application, I'm probably going to write a clever prompt to go do that versus doing that manually. And so, did I change my skills a little bit? Yeah. But, the media loves to overhype this. And at some point, we'll move to Star Trek money and...
I predict Microsoft's going to do a big licensing change soon. There's going to need to be, there needs to be kind of like where we learned a whole way of procurement in the cloud when that came. I think we need a different procurement model in an AI world. I don't know that the old model's going to work.
It's going to be interesting. Even, the current models don't work already. So like if you're paying $30 a month or $40 a month for Copilot, I promise you the agent mode and the software engineering agent are spending more than $30 and $40 a month for the work they're doing. And at the same time, I don't know if that'll ever correct itself, meaning that also I've read stuff that kind of says that it cost half as much this year to run the same models that we ran last year. And so at some point, economy of scale might kick in and drive cost. And that's what I tell people. I have people that are worried about, the power plants and the heat and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, when electric cars first came out, the battery cost more than the car.
Yeah.
And now I'm reading the batteries have dropped basically below the number that they would cause, electric cars not to grow faster.
Yeah. Yeah.
Batteries are cheap now because we've been building them for 10 years and we're building them in volume. And so I think the AI stuff will be the same kind of thing. It's like, if you're using like the Sonnet model we were talking about earlier, that's a coding model.
Yeah.
So, you can't ask it to, how to cook a hamburger. Because it doesn't know that. And so I think we'll have cheaper models that do less stuff and we'll be, so I think there's a whole bunch of things that'll kick in, hopefully to drive this economy of scale thing faster and faster and faster. And you don't need a foundational model for everything.
Scott, it's been so good having you on the show. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mark.
Hey, thanks for listening. I'm your host, Mark Smith, otherwise known as the NZ365 guy. Is there a guest you would like to see on the show from Microsoft? Please message me on LinkedIn and I'll see what I can do. Final question for you. How will you create with Copilot today? Ka kite.
Are you ready to accelerate your career in the Microsoft ecosystem? The 90-Day Mentoring Challenge, created by Mark Smith, is your opportunity to create a personalized pathway to success. Join over 1,200 alumni from more than 70 countries who have achieved remarkable results, from promotions to new job opportunities. Take it from Nathan, who said, since completing the 90-Day Mentoring Challenge, I've become an MVP in business applications and doubled my income. Or from Parves, who shares, I've never felt as inspired or energized about my career as I do now. Sign up at arcor.nz365guy.com. You can find the link in the show notes. And if you use the code podcast, you'll get 10% off.